Shadows Beneath the Sun. Part 1. The Year of Broken Chains. South Africa, February 1990. The sun hung low over the Transvaal plains, a molten disk bleeding through the haze of dust. The air smelled of coal and dry grass, of iron and sweat, the scent of a country waiting to change. Along the narrow dirt road that led to the gold mines outside Johannesburg, men trudged in silence, their lunch tins clanging like muted bells. Among them walked Thabo Mokoena, 26 years old, his face carved by years of hard labor, though his eyes still carried a boy's defiance. Each step he took sank into the red earth that his ancestors had tilled, the same earth that now belonged to someone else. He was a miner, one among thousands, working deep under the ground that yielded gold for the white man's cities and hunger for the black man's home. That morning, a rumor had spread through the shantytown like wildfire. Nelson Mandela might be released. No one dared to say it too loudly, not in front of the guards, not even inside the buses where the company foreman sat near the front, staring at them through the mirror. But Thabo had heard it from his friend Simon, who'd heard it from a cousin in Soweto. "Mandela's coming home, Thabo. This time it's real." That night, as he reached the settlement, where corrugated tin houses glittered under the moonlight like shards of a broken dream, Thabo saw smoke rising from the cooking fires. Women's laughter drifted through the night air. Children chased after a punctured football. Dogs barked, and the world, for a brief moment, felt alive. The township. The township was called KwaMatlala, a patchwork of tin roofs, rusted fences, and endless dust. Electricity was a rumor, water a privilege. The people here lived between fear and faith. Faith that tomorrow might be kinder. Nomvula, the schoolteacher, lived 3 rows down from Thabo's shack. Her classroom was a small wooden hut with a cracked blackboard and benches made of old crates. Yet when she spoke, her words carried the fire of mountains. "Children," she would say, her voice steady even when soldiers patrolled outside, "you must learn your history. You must know who you are before they tell you who you're supposed to be." Her pupils were 8, maybe 10 years old, the sons and daughters of miners, maids and field hands. Many came to class barefoot, hungry, but their eyes shone with a hunger far deeper, the hunger to understand. She taught them under the shadow of apartheid's laws. She was not allowed to use certain books, not allowed to teach political subjects. Still, she kept a worn-out copy of Long Walk to Freedom hidden under her bed, a banned book then, passed from hand to hand like contraband fire. That night she sat by candlelight, listening to the distant hum of voices from the street outside. Someone was singing an old struggle song, "Sanzanina, what have we done?" The melody carried both sorrow and defiance. She whispered to herself, "They can chain a man, but they can't chain an idea." The Afrikaner farmer. 30 miles away, in the heart of the Free State, Peter van der Merwe watched the sky turn crimson over his family's farm. He was 42, a man of quiet habits and inherited guilt. His father had fought for the apartheid government. His grandfather had fought the British. Peter fought the silence in his own mind. He had grown up believing the stories, that black people were dangerous, that the land was safer in white hands, that order depended on separation. But lately, the words tasted sour. His foreman, Mthembu, had worked on the Van der Merwe farm for over 20 years, a man with shoulders broad as boulders and eyes that carried both dignity and defeat. He respected him, but he never quite knew how to speak to him. Not as equals, not yet. That evening, as they loaded the last sacks of maize onto the truck, Peter broke the silence. "Mtembu," he said quietly, "you've heard the news?" The older man paused. "About Mandela?" Peter nodded. Mtembu looked at him, then at the horizon where the sun was dying in a flood of orange. "I heard. The wind carries strange stories these days." Neither spoke after that, but both felt the shift in the air, something ending, something beginning. Johannesburg at night. In the heart of Johannesburg, the city pulsed with two different heartbeats, one of neon lights and paved streets, the other of dust and curfew. Thabo walked with Simon through the alleyways where black market traders sold everything from batteries to American cigarettes. Posters were appearing on walls. "ANC lives! Mandela must be free!" The police tore them down by morning. Simon spat on the ground. "They can't stop it forever," he said. "You feel it, Thabo? The world's changing." Thabo wanted to believe him, but change was a dangerous word. He'd seen too many men disappear for whispering it. Still, that night, as he looked up at the sky, vast and full of stars, he thought of his little sister, Lindiwele, sleeping in their shack. He thought of the stories their mother used to tell before she died, stories of lions, of ancestors who never bowed to kings. He whispered, "Maybe tomorrow." February 11th, 1990. The morning began like any other. The miners gathered for work, women fetched water, soldiers patrolled. Then at noon, someone ran through Kwamatlala shouting, "Mandela is free! Mandela is free!" For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, as if a dam had broken, the township erupted. Laughter, tears, songs, drums, ululations rising like thunder. Old women fell to their knees, men embraced strangers, children danced barefoot in the dust, dogs barked, and the world for a brief moment felt alive. But even as she spoke, distant gunfire echoed from the direction of the police outpost. Freedom, it seemed, would not come without cost. Night of fire. By dusk, celebration had turned to chaos. Some police stations were burned, others fired into crowds. Thabo saw men fall, men he'd worked beside that morning. Smoke rose from the township like a dark cloud blotting the stars. He found Simon lying on the ground, blood on his shirt, eyes wide with disbelief. "They shot at us," he sighed. I'm going to die. Thabo, my brother." He smiled faintly. "Tell them we were free for a moment." Then he was gone. Thabo sat in the dirt, surrounded by the cries of the wounded and the songs of the defiant. The world was changing, yes, but it was bleeding as it did. Epilogue of Part 1. By morning, the fires were out. The township smelled of ashes and hope. Nomvula's classroom was half burned, but she stood before her students anyway. "Children," she said softly, "remember this day. One day your children will ask what you saw when freedom came. Tell them you saw the dawn, not the fire." Thabo walked to the mine gates and looked out at the horizon. In the distance, smoke still curled like restless ghosts, but beyond it, the sun rose golden and fierce. For the first time he felt it, the weight of chains beginning to break.
Part 2. Dust and Blood. Kwamatlala Township, March 1990. The summer rains had ended too soon. The air was heavy with dust again, the earth cracked and thirsty. The mine whistles shrieked every dawn, pulling men from sleep into the black tunnels below. Thabo woke before the first light. His sister Lindiwe still slept beside their dying fire, curled under a tattered blanket. He brushed a hand through her hair, then stepped outside into the dawn wind that carried the scent of coal and rain that never came. Since Mandela's release, the township had been alive with talk of new beginnings, of elections, of a South Africa finally free. But weeks had passed, and nothing had changed yet. The police still patrolled with rifles, the mines still paid starvation wages, and hunger still lived in every home. Freedom, Thabo realized, was not a door that opened in one day. It was a long road of gust and blood. The mines. The underground world was a furnace, the air thick with the breath of thousands. Hammers clanged against rock. Men worked stripped to their waists, skin gleaming with sweat, eyes burning from the dim yellow lamps. Thabo's pickaxe struck the stone again and again until his muscles screamed. Beside him, Twaide, an older miner, muttered, "We dig the gold we'll never touch. We die for the shine that fills their banks." Thabo grunted. "Then maybe we stop digging." Twaide turned at him sharply. "And starve? The union leaders talk big, but the bosses have guns." "Maybe guns don't matter if all of us stand together," Thabo said quietly. Twaide looked at him for a long moment, then gave a tired smile. "You sound like a young fool. Or maybe a young Mandela." Above ground, rumors of a strike spread like wildfire. Leaflets printed in secret urged miners to demand fair wages, safer tunnels, dignity. The white supervisors confiscated them, tore them apart, and beat anyone caught distributing them. But Thabo kept one hidden in his lunch tin. Every night he read it by candlelight. The paper said, "Freedom is not only the right to vote, it is the right to live."
The strike. It began on a Monday morning. Thousands of miners refused to enter the shafts. They gathered outside the mine gates, fists raised, voices thunderous. "Amandla, power. Awetu, to the people." Thabo stood among them, heart pounding. The air was thick with dust and song. The company manager appeared, flanked by armed guards. "Go home," he shouted. "You're breaking the law." But no one moved. The guards raised their rifles. Nomvula arrived from the township, standing at the edge of the crowd. She'd brought a banner her students had painted. "We dig our freedom from the earth." When the first shot rang out, chaos exploded. Men fell, screams tore through the dust. Thabo dropped to his knees beside Zwaide, who was clutching his chest. "Get up, old man," Thabo shouted. Zwaide smiled weakly. Now, maybe they will listen. By nightfall, 3 miners were dead, dozens wounded. The strike spread to nearby mines, then to factories, then to the streets of Johannesburg. The government declared a state of emergency. Freedom, again, was paid for in blood. After the fire. In KwaMatlala, soldiers patrolled the streets. They raided homes, dragged men from their beds. Peter heard about the violence from his farm radio. He felt a heaviness he couldn't name. That night, he found Mtembu sitting alone by the cattle shed. "They killed miners in Joburg," he said quietly. Mtembu looked up. "They always kill us when we speak." "I didn't mean—" Peter stopped himself. The words felt useless. The older man rose. "You want to understand? Then stop listening to the radio. Come to the townships. See how we live." Peter nodded slowly. "Maybe I will." And for the first time in his life, he meant it. A letter never sent. A week later, Nomvula sat by candlelight, writing a letter she knew she might never post. Dear Mr. Mandela, you don't know me. I am a teacher in Kwamatlala. I teach the children of miners who died believing in the promise of your words. They think freedom has already come, but we still see guns outside our schools and hunger in our homes. Still, I tell them to hope. I tell them that every sunrise is a small act of courage. I don't know if you will ever read this, but if you do, please don't forget the miners, the teachers, the mothers who fight in silence. We are the dust beneath the sun, and yet we keep rising. Yours in faith, Nomvula Ndlovu. She folded the paper and placed it in her Bible. Some letters were meant only for God. The night of rain. At last, rain came. The first drops fell on the tin roofs like music. Children ran outside laughing, arms wide. Thabo stood barefoot in the mud, face lifted to the sky, feeling the cool water wash away the dust of weeks. But even as the rain fell, he knew it could not wash away the blood. The wounds of the land ran too deep. He found Nomvula standing by her classroom, watching the children dance. "It's not over," he said. "No, but maybe it has begun," she replied, smiling faintly. They stood together under the rain, two weary souls beneath the storm, watching a new South Africa struggle to be born.
Epilogue of Part 2. By winter, the strike had ended. The union leaders signed a fragile agreement: higher wages for some, promises for others. In the Free State, Peter drove his truck into the township for the first time. He met families who had lost sons in the mines. He saw children learning in burned-out classrooms, women rebuilding homes from ashes. Something in him shifted forever. Back in Kwamatlala, Thabo returned to work, but he was no longer the same man. He had seen what courage looked like and what it cost. Nomvula began teaching again, her lessons now full of questions